What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. I figured one of these is essential because it's WrestleMania season. There was a previous video I made like this. It's about Daniel Bryan's. I made one on Ric Flair too. And I believe Rey Mysterio one's gonna come eventually. Just not right now at the moment. I'm working on other things. But I really want to do that one. It would be a good video, hopefully. Well, I'm not focused on it right now. Shawn Michaels, HBK's road to WrestleMania 12 is very interesting to me. He had the matches of his life. He inherited $2 million from a fan. Rumor has it. I'll get into it later. Just the craziness of it all. Despite all the whining and complaining in the back, he puts on a show like you have never, ever seen before. So where do we start off on the road to Anaheim? April 3rd, 1995, the night after Shawn Michaels unsuccessfully challenged Diesel for the gold. He, of course, pulled a famous stunts by making Diesel's jackknife look like absolute trash. I'll dive into that story once I finish the Diesel title reign video. Well, anyways, Vince McMahon interviewed Shawn Michaels regarding his WrestleMania match. He accepted an invitation for a rematch and promised to capture the belt when the match happens. HBK then made it seem like he's giving Sid the night off, and damn was he angry. It's like Michaels told him softball sucks or something. He didn't want to hear that at all. HBK blamed him for the loss at WrestleMania and began shouting at him. After the commercial break, HBK is dead on the mat. The fans are cheering when Diesel makes the save. And following this, Michaels went on hiatus and a face turn was planned for him upon his return. This was in spite of the fact that the heel side of the roster was limited at this point. HBK was getting cheered, incredible cheers, and so the decision was made to turn him into a good guy. Michaels himself thought it was because of the super kick out from WrestleMania. You know, Diesel kicked out at 1. He didn't really seem interested in a face turn at the moment, Vince insisted. And so begins the road to WrestleMania 12. It was revealed that Psycho Sid assaulted HBK because he was a part of a $1 million corporation. They aired this little video package promoting HBK's arrival on the May 22nd, 1995 episode of Raw. He made his return facing King Kong Bundy of the $1 Million Corporation. This was a King of the Ring qualifying match, I should know. HBK had grown a beard and was a full-fledged babyface. Despite the challenge in front of him, Michaels managed to best Bundy to advance in the tournament, and after the match, he embraced the little friendship he had with Diesel and was off to the King of the Ring. The guy was gaining popularity by the week and just exuding confidence. His opponent in the tournament was Kama, and the fans were completely clamoring for an HBK victory. One thing I should note, and I don't even know why in the hell this happened on the network, was the fact that the entrance is edited. It's odd to me because, well, it's an entrance, but from what I could find, HBK tried on the crown and basically showed that it was too big for his head. Spoiler alert. In my eyes, I see it as just them preparing a bigger crown in case Mabel wins. As for the match itself, it was so intense that it ended in a time limit draw. Yep. I assume they wanted to protect both guys, but the end result, the entire pay-per-view, certainly didn't sit well with the fans. It's definitely a GOAT-tier pay-per-view that I can't cover due to how good it is. I couldn't do it justice. With that said, HBK felt at this point he was directionless. I read this in his book, but the next night would change everything. So, Shawn was providing commentary with McMahon. Suddenly, the Roadie bumps into him and Jeff Jarrett gets involved. HBK beats his ass and Savio Vega takes advantage. Roadie causes a DQ and HBK is back in there. They clear house and send the music artists running. This was the beginning of a feud with Jeff Jarrett, I should know. Michaels received a title shot against him for In Your House 2, and there was hardly a build-up for the thing. All there was on TV was Jeff Jarrett's With My Baby Tonight music video, which is definitely up there as one of the biggest hits of 95. Anyways, the match itself, to this day, in my eyes, is Jeff Jarrett's best damn match. Singles, of course. HBK 95 is really a sight to see due to the fact that he always accomplished his goal, which was to steal the show, and 9 times out of 10, he did it. I mean, Double J himself was a solid head throughout his career, but there was nothing like this match. I mean, fans are going crazy about this kind of stuff. It's one of those matches that you'll always see in HBK's highlight reels. Michaels accidentally won when the Roadie pulled Jarrett's leg. This gives way to the sweet chin music, and HBK's the new Intercontinental Champion. Seriously, if you really want a WWF WCW match to watch from 95, this certainly deserves a mention. It's up there with some of the best matches of the year. Now that HBK's Intercontinental Champion, he began focusing on SummerSlam. At the same time, there were a couple of guys who were knocking at the champ's door. You know, Psycho Sid comes to mind because HBK cost him his match against Diesel in Your House the previous night. He was seeking revenge. There was Jerry the King Lawler, who just didn't like the Heartbreak Kid and wanted to take his title. Shortly thereafter, the match between Sid and HBK was made for SummerSlam. Jerry Lawler was still trying to get himself a match with Michaels, and basically was just pushing his buttons. Before they can clash in the final Raw before SummerSlam, Sid was randomly removed from the pay-per-view match. Why? Well, in kayfabe, Gorilla Monsoon was the interim president of the WWF, and so was listening to the fans. In reality, the WWF felt that the SummerSlam card wasn't good enough and wanted something with pizzazz. Diesel versus King Mabel wasn't enough. In Sid's place was Razor Ramon, and it was going to be a sequel to the WrestleMania 10 ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. As for the King, HBK beat his ass, but Sid ruined everything, causing a DQ. Suddenly, Razor Ramon runs in and makes a save. The heels ran away, and the SummerSlam opponents engaged in a tug-of-war over the IC belt. And it took Diesel having to come out and trying to separate them for it to stop. Regarding the ladder match, I already talked about some of it in this video, but in my eyes, they surpassed WrestleMania 10. It's rare for sequels to top the first one, but in this case, SummerSlam 95 is the exception, at least for me. One thing to mention is that despite the fact that they couldn't use the ladder as a weapon, I don't know why Vince had that rule, Razor and Shawn put on a classic. It was an incredible display of what both men were capable of, and for sure it's one of the best matches from the 90s regardless of what promotion we're talking about. Sure, there were some botches. Sure, HBK's ass was shown, but if anything, at least for me, it added greatly to the match. Not everything is supposed to go smooth in a ladder match, right? After over 20 minutes of grueling action, Shawn emerged victorious to retain the title. Razor was frustrated with the result, but with the loss, he gained much more respect for the Heartbreak Kid. Following SummerSlam, HBK defended the gold in the first episode in the Monday Night Wars. Nitro ran unopposed the previous week, but this was the first time there was competition. Anyway, Sid gave HBK a hard time, and it was clear that he was waiting for this moment, but Michaels was in form. He had a hell of a lot of momentum and ended up beating the future WWF champ clean. The challenger did look strong, however, having to take 2 consecutive sweet chin musics in order to be put down. At the same time, a tag match pitting Shawn and Diesel against Owen and Yokozuna for the tag belts was promoted for In Your House 3. It wasn't just for the tag belts. If either Diesel or HBK were pinned, they'd lose their title. The match itself was pretty forgettable. I mean, I watched it as a kid on the Greatest Stars of the 90s DVD. Adds to the fact that it ended up being pointless. Yeah, no wonder it's forgotten. Let me explain why it was forgotten. First of all, Owen Hart was replaced by the Bulldog, right? Well, during the match, he randomly runs in, fails to hit the axe handle, takes a jackknife to lose the tag titles. Decent match, but the next night, the ruling was overturned because Owen wasn't officially in the match. It ended up being all for nothing. The two dudes with attitude did continue teaming up over the next couple of weeks, and at the same time, Dean Douglas was seeking a match with Shawn Michaels. He attacked the IC champion after a tag match trying to force an absence, and they were set to face off at In Your House, the Great White North. In the build-up to the match, something very crazy occurred. First of all, I gotta mention the fact that the Clique didn't like Dean Douglas. So the story goes, the Clique thought Douglas couldn't work, and he had a bad match with 1-2-3 Kid, and that's it. They made up their minds after one match, literally one match. They're talking about how he's a crybaby, whining about his back or whatever, and the Clique just didn't like the guy and claimed that he was overrated. The Gossip guys weren't exactly fans of his, and the franchise wasn't backing down. Before the event, however, HBK got his ass beat by a Marine. The actual story is unknown, but one thing for sure is that Michaels got his ass beat by a military veteran. And they decided, you know what? HBK's forfeiting the IC title. He was beaten and battered, and they had already mentioned the attack on TV, which I found cool, because they always managed to make something into a story. But yeah, at the In Your House Great White North pay-per-view, HBK, despite doctor's orders, came to the arena in order to forfeit the belt. He was sporting a couple of marks on his face stemming from the beatdown, and Shane Douglas became the new champion for only 10 minutes, cause Razor, a fellow Clique member, won it. Shane believed that they conspired, but HBK himself denies it, and it's a deep story that other YouTube channels have talked about. I shouldn't, because it's a story that everybody's done, and it's about as likely as me making a Montreal video, a Monday Night War video, or an Edge and Matt Hardy video. Yeah, those are like the 3 or 4 videos you won't see me do. A video about the Clique and the others. Anyway, Shane didn't last long in the WWF, and I honestly think it would have fit like a glove had he debuted around the summer of 1997. With that said, the Heartbreak Kid disappeared following this, but not before talking about this incident on Raw. He didn't like the fact that he gave an overrated wrestler, yeah, he called him that, the belt, and add to that, he was glad that Douglas lost the title to Razor. Regarding Survivor Series, he said that he's got 2 choices, sit home and cry, or suck it up and be at pain. He returned at the Survivor Series in good condition by the looks of it, and he teamed up with Ahmed Johnson, Psycho Sid, and the Bulldog. It was a weird wild card type match, you know, heels and faces alike, and during the match, Michaels was battered and beaten, but managed to last in the end, along with the Bulldog and Ahmed Johnson, who was put over huge with a W. The next night, however, was totally different. So in the main event, the Heartbreak Kid was set to face the Rocket Owen Hart. He shines bright as expected, quick offense, bouncing off the ropes like he does. The fans are cheering when HBK just collapses down to the mat like that. Why did this happen? Well, Michaels, in storyline, was still feeling the effects of the Marine beatdown. This moment in itself was featured on the Raw 15th Anniversary DVD, and as a kid, not a 90s kid, I was kind of conflicted over this moment, you know, half kayfabe, half in the know or whatever, so I just assumed it was real. HBK was actually suffering post-concussion syndrome, legit. So he went on hiatus for a few weeks. The WWF explained his injury as worsening from the Survivor Series elimination match. You know, he took a bunch of shots to the head, like the Razor's Edge, a leg drop to top it all off, a spinning heel kick from Owen moments before he collapsed. His doctor made it seem like HBK had a gloomy future ahead, like he'll be out for a very long time. The former Intercontinental Champion finally appeared in some form on the December 11th, 1995 episode of Raw. Michaels gave everybody an update claiming he's okay. He hasn't suffered any dizziness, blackouts, and in his eyes, he's okay. If it was up to him, he'd return today, but that clearly isn't the case. Despite the storied career he's had, Michaels still wanted to accomplish more. And on the topic of retirement, HBK seemed to realize, oh, it just might happen. He questioned Todd's emotions towards the whole situation. It got him all angry, because of that, he refused to give an answer. So in kayfabe, Shawn Michaels, the 3-time Intercontinental Champion, the former Tag Team Champion's career looks to be all but over. So the WWF ended 1995 with a video package highlighting HBK's career. They played this song called Tell Me a Lie. There was a bunch of highlight clips, and oh my god, this is so new generation era-ish. But about 2 weeks later, Shawn Michaels made a stunning announcement. He's in the Royal Rumble. Fast forward to Fresno, Shawn Michaels entered at number 18. He eliminated 8 men, which kind of blows my mind. Like, wasn't that the record at this point? It was like Superman eliminating the likes of Yoko and Vader at the same time. The 1, 2, 3 kid. Then Vader just comes in. In any other year this occurs, Michaels would have been eliminated, but for some reason this wasn't the case here. Vader was already eliminated, and so it didn't count. HBK held on right until the end when he faced Big Daddy Cool. Diesel turns around and boom, 2 years in a row, Mr. Perfect was in disbelief, and with the victory made him the first ever 2-time winner of the Royal Rumble. It was unheard of. And with the victory, it meant that Shawn Michaels was going back to WrestleMania. The elimination only seemed to fuel the anger in Diesel, and that's a story for another day. The next night on Raw, Shawn Michaels discussed his Royal Rumble victory. First of all, he said that he'll take care of those 9 chumps. Talk about telling a lie. As HBK was going to talk about Owen Hart and the attack last night, Jim Cornette appears. He credited Hart as being the one who took HBK out 2 months ago and straight up told him that there's not going to be a rematch. So the Royal Rumble winner said he'd do anything to face Owen Hart. Cornette heard the word anything and told Michaels to put up his spot at WrestleMania so he could face the Rocket. The Clique seemed to like this idea, and it was on. And then tossed Cornette over the top rope. Heading into In Your House, HBK began building momentum, all while the WWF champion Bret Hart was slowly losing it. Yokozuna did the job for him 2 weeks in a row, so the Royal Rumble winner was looking good ahead of the pay-per-view match. As for that, it was fine as hell. When I watched it a year and a half ago, it was really enjoyable, and it was the start of HBK's hot, flaming streak of awesome, not good, not decent, but outstanding matches. And life was good for him at this point. I mean, literally, in the build-up to WrestleMania, he received a $2 million inheritance from a fan that passed away. Like, how lucky can you get? Is that story true? Well, I did some digging. So apparently, this was a huge rumor in early 1996, and somebody asked him about the money during a press conference, but he responded with no comment. And I dig down even further and discovered that Kevin Nash said Shawn Michaels was given the $2 million, not from a fan, but from Vince as a bonus. Is that true? I don't know, but this rumor was pretty big at the time, and I just wanted to mention it because it's quite funny to me. As for the match, it's Rocket era Owen Hart and 96 Shawn Michaels. Like, what the hell would you expect? Owen Hart gave HBK a very hard time, but it wasn't enough to score that W. And so, the boyhood dream was slowly becoming a reality, but before he can do that, he had to go up against the 3-time World Wrestling Federation champion, Bret the Hitman Hart. On the February 26, 1996 episode of Raw, both men went face-to-face. At this point in time, there wasn't much animosity between both men. Of course, Bret wasn't so fond of the Clique, but they were professionals. With that said, Michaels affirmed his respect for Bret Hart, stating that he may possibly be the best there ever was, the best there ever will be, the best in 1996, That's the Heartbreak Kid. Hitman himself praised HBK, calling him one of the greatest wrestlers he's ever watched, and he said that he looks forward to showing why he calls himself the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. The fans booed, which is kind of a shock to me, and Bret said that it's not his job to beat Shawn, but vice versa. He then warned Michaels, letting him know that he's in for the biggest dogfight he's ever been in. McMahon acknowledged the topic of conditioning, and Shawn mentioned how he's been beaten up by 9 guys, tall guys, but despite this, he's as good as he's ever been. All of a sudden, the WWF president Roddy Piper made a sudden appearance, and he complained about the fans booing Bret. Regarding Shawn Michaels, he talked about how this kid has been dying to be WWF champion, and so this match, it deserves a clear conclusion. Piper announced that it will be a 60-minute Iron Man match at WrestleMania. March 31st, whoever gets the most falls is a champion. They shook hands all buddy-buddy before leaving. Heading into the big match in Anaheim, the WWF showed just how hard these men were training. They both had different approaches in training. You know, HBK was all about the monkey bars, rope climbing, lucha libre, whereas Bret was more focused on submission wrestling, studying tape, and it was clear that Bret couldn't live with the idea of people thinking Shawn Michaels is better than him. It was clearly bugging him, and on the other side, they were trying to showcase HBK's relationship with Jose Lothario. Bret was the family man and much more grounded. He wasn't out there to dance, act all flamboyant, but just wrestle. He felt as if he was a real role model compared to Shawn Michaels. He said that Michaels wasn't as composed as him and promised to capitalize on those mistakes. On the final Raw before WrestleMania, HBK faced Leif Cassidy. During the match, Marty Jannetty Michaels' old buddy got involved, and so Bret Hart decided to do something about it. HBK ended up winning the match, but right afterwards, tempers flared between the two combustible egos. It was really close to exploding, but it didn't. Bret afterwards praised the Heartbreak Kid and considered him to be kind of a friend, but he promised that on March 31st, he's gonna punish him so bad. Before Raw concluded, though, they played another New Generation style video on Bret Hart. That had some cheesy music there, of course, but it wasn't as hilarious as HBK's. But either way, it ain't as terrible as the song Bret Hart performed on the WrestleMania album. I really suggest you go search, Bret Hart singing "Never Been a Right Time to Say Goodbye," or whatever the hell that song's called. And I just wonder if he's singing about the belt or something. But anyways, it was time. March 31st, 1996, WrestleMania 12, Anaheim, California. The two biggest stars of the 90s. Making this video, I once again realized that early 96 was cool as ice. Jordan, Tupac, Biggie, NWO. These two finally clashing. Whoa, there was a lot going on back then. Before the match, HBK was at a loss of words, stating that it's come to a head. Bret, on the other hand, wanted to show everybody how good he is, and all he wanted was to wake up in the morning with the belt by his side. When it was time for HBK to come out, well, he didn't. Jerry Lawler thought he chickened out, but wait, what in the WrestleMania is that? The Madman was actually ziplining his way down to the ring, and that in itself is the most WrestleMania moment I can think of. It's Hogan Andre, Hogan Rock, and this for me. It became a staple of WrestleMania moments for years to follow. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Vince himself actually tried this spot, which I find quite hilarious. The match itself is very controversial. Some like it, some feel it's overrated, but me personally, it's not my favorite. I do have a tremendous amount of respect for it, though. This in particular had a slow build, which many will appreciate. I just feel the match should have featured a couple of falls. It probably would have made a huge difference. The crowd would have been much hotter, no doubt about it. On the contrary, honestly, it does make sense for the guys to preserve energy, but a surprise roll-up out of nowhere would have added. It took a very long time to pick up, and I personally believe it would have been much loved had it been a singles match. I'll probably dive into the entire match in the future along with Brock and Kurt. But long story short, when I watched the match in July, I remember it wasn't until the final 10 minutes that the match picked up. By then, time was almost up. They were spent, but the guys left enough energy to have a back-and-forth conclusion to the match. Near the end, HBK was building momentum, hitting gut wrenches, moonsaults. Just as he's going for the missile dropkick, Bret catches him in the sharpshooter. The boyhood dream is going to be crushed. Nope. He held on to the end. With the time expiring, Hitman retains. All of a sudden, Gorilla Monsoon makes the decision to continue the match under sudden death rules. Of course, Bret was pissed off, but what was there to do? Immediately, he goes on the attack, working on that back, and he ends up getting ahead of himself, and boom, sweet chin music, but HBK spent. He couldn't muster up any energy to go up for the cover, and instead he managed to get up and do it again. 1, 2, 3. The boyhood dream has come true for Shawn Michaels. He tells Earl to tell Bret to get the F out of the ring and celebrates. Bret did consider his future afterwards. The WWF was all in on Michaels, so he felt as if there wasn't a place for himself. But like I said, the match was good. Technical stuff, great. But 60 minutes in my eyes, it needed more drama. Michaels was now the WWF champion, and this match only served to intensify the feud between both Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. They would have a couple of matches afterwards, but the WrestleMania 13 match in my eyes is such a huge missed opportunity. I just think it's a shame we never got to see a full-fledged singles match between these two for the title in 96 or 97. I know we got it in 92, and that was an excellent bout, but it really would have made a huge difference had it happened around this time period. So yeah, that's Shawn Michaels' title win. That's his road to WrestleMania 12. I will definitely do his title reign, which will be an excellent video, I hope. He really put on the performances of his life. I'm sure he was a douche, but still, once he was in that ring, he told a story like nobody else. That's what I think. What did you guys think of Shawn Michaels' road to WrestleMania 12? Please comment down below, and that's your first video. Make sure you hit the diving elbow on the like button, perhaps the sweet chin music on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.